Tonight at 6, another rocky day in the financial world with markets tumbling, but job numbers better than expected. We have the update.
And a fitting send-off for a young man killed in an avalanche. The unique way friends, family, and community said goodbye.
And she has been awfully hard to catch, but they aren't giving up yet. The clever shepherd who has been evading capture in the Juneau forest.
Avalanche danger is high in parts of the Kenai Peninsula going into the weekend, and snow and high winds hit parts of the Aleutians. I'll have the forecast for planning your weekend.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
For the second day, the Dow plummeted as nervous investors pulled out of the market. And after the president made his tariff announcement yesterday, today countries are beginning to respond.
China announced it would impose its own 34% tariff on all U.S. goods shipped into that country.
Now, all the U.S. markets fell today with the S&P 500 dropping 322 points. The drop closed the worst week for the S&P 500 since March of 2020 when the pandemic hit the global economy. Now, looking at the week as a whole, the S&P 500 is down 9.1%. The Dow fell by 7.9%, and the NASDAQ dropped by 10%. Oil prices fell to their lowest since 2021, and Alaska North Slope crude dropped $4.27 since yesterday.
Now, the U.S. added 228,000 jobs in March, far more than the 140,000 economists had expected. Unemployment ticked up slightly to 4.2% from 4.1% the month before.
Last month's gains far outnumber the 117,000 jobs added in February. Healthcare, transportation, and warehousing were among the sectors that added roles in March. Now, while federal hiring declined amid sweeping cuts to the government's workforce.
Now, yesterday, we had Al Biss with Biss Wealth Partners on to discuss the fallout of the market drop and tariffs. Didn't have much time to talk to him on air, so I had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Bliss, ask him some questions. You could listen to that full conversation by going to our podcast, In Depth Alaska. Find that wherever you listen to podcasts.
And with only 1 month until real IDs will be needed for things like flying commercial, some Alaskans in remote communities say that they're finding the path to getting those IDs complicated and expensive.
Our investigative reporter Johnson Kuhn went to Alaska DMV leaders seeking clarification.
Adopted by Congress in 2005 as a security measure following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, real IDs will be required on May 7th, not just to board domestic flights, but also to enter certain federal facilities. But one Cordova resident who requests to remain anonymous says after spending the money to fly to Anchorage, only to be told they brought the incorrect documents, more understanding is needed.
Sometimes people don't bring in the right documents, and that's frustrating, and we can understand that.
That's why DMV Division Operations Manager Lauren Whiteside strongly encourages everyone to check the DMV's Real ID online checklist. However, some say it's not so simple. A Cordova resident reached out to Alaska's News Source Investigates. While they did not want their name used, here's what they told us. In a community where you don't get your mail delivered to your residence, it's difficult to get documents that have your physical address listed on them that then meet the federal qualifications. The fact that the community has been without a Department of Motor Vehicles for several months, people are having to go to extra expense to travel to get these IDs. I asked Cordova city officials about this. They told me their local DMV's been closed since last fall due to staffing issues. The DMV's Whiteside says for roadless communities like Cordova, there are solutions.
We have a rural mobile DMV unit that we can send to these communities with our staff members. And over the last several years, DMV has visited several communities to issue Real ID credentials and offer DMV services they don't otherwise have. So we do have a process in place. We communicate with many rural communities monthly, giving them the information and the requirements for DMV to come and visit their community.
The DMV's operation manager says her office is currently working with Cordova to provide them with a mobile unit. As for concerns around utilities being delivered to P.O. boxes, she says as long as the utility has both a physical address and the P.O. box number present, it will always be acceptable. For more on specifics to what is required and how to check, We've made that information available on our website and mobile app. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
From high avalanche danger in South Central
to the big drifts of snow in Unalaska, Akutan, and the Aleutians, meteorologist Jackie Purcell joins us now with the forecast.
Yeah, we are looking at high avalanche danger in key places where people like to recreate along the Kenai Peninsula. Let's get to that area. It is the Turnagain Pass area as well as Seward and Lost Lake. According to the Chugach National Forest Avalanche Information Center, all elevations of Turnagain Pass from below treeline to alpine are included in this danger. And the same is true for the Seward and Lost Lake areas. And the center stresses that you avoid avalanche terrain today, steer clear of runout zones and of overhead avalanche paths. And they also added that if you do start sinking up to your knees in wet snow, that's a sign that the slope you are on is unstable and it is capable of sliding. Good note to have as you head into the weekend. And there is that storm in the Gulf of Alaska that has brought some changes. And here it is, wet weather for lower elevations, but the higher elevations seeing some wet snow. We're also looking at some high snow drifts between Unalaska and Akutan. They're still under a winter storm warning for at least 6 more inches of snow. This is what it looked like in Akutan, 8 to 10 inches of snow there. There was blowing and drifting. Their snow drifts were about 2 to 4 feet, but in Unalaska at a 500-foot elevation, they said it was 12 to 15 feet drifts. So the plows were having trouble even keeping up. Our current temperature in Anchorage, 43 degrees. You can see it's warm. It's even warmer in Fairbanks. They're at 50 with light winds as well. And the wet weather is going to continue to push into the South Central region. And this means a continued concern for not just a lot of rain, but also that avalanche danger. We'll have more in the forecast coming up a little bit later on the newscast.
It's a way to connect homeless people in Fairbanks with the help that they need for mental help. So this week, the Fairbanks City Council approved a 3-year, $975,000 contract. Now, in the 4-to-1 vote, Fairbanks Integrated Community Services was chosen to run the city's emergency service patrol.
That nonprofit's leaders say their goal is to maintain relationships so they reach vulnerable people before a crisis. Saying they'll respond mostly to non-emergencies, the vote brings back a program that had lapsed. Supporters say that meant the responsibility fell on Fairbanks Police and Fire.
Especially in the wintertime when people could freeze, I think it's very important that we have this life-saving mission of this contractor to help take care of those individuals that may be homeless, may be on the street because of a family situation. I think it's our obligation as a city to take care of everybody in our community.
Councilmember Lonnie Marney says concerns like on unarmed staff responding to emergencies is why he voted no.
It's unclear right now when the nonprofit will begin their operations.
Hundreds gathered last night to honor a Soldotna teenager killed last month in an avalanche.
And they did it in a uniquely Alaskan and very personal way.
That was the sound that Tucker Challen's mother said that he loved. She said Tucker would start up his machine just to smell the 2-stroke exhaust because for him, that meant winter was officially on the way.
To close out the celebration of life held at Soldotna High School, friends, family, and the community, they brought their snow machines out to the parking lot and revved the engines in a 2-stroke send-off, a tribute to Chalens and his love of the sport. You can learn more about Tucker on our website.
A California dog who was adopted by a family in Juneau is still on the run tonight.
Yeah, Lauren Maxwell reports it's been more than 2 months since she gave her new owners the slip.
A rescue group brought the dog named Jackie to Juneau from a crowded shelter in Southern California following the wildfires after learning she might be euthanized to free up space. But Jackie wasn't in her new home very long. She bolted on her first day of adoption and has been on the loose ever since. Searchers have spotted the dog numerous times, baiting live traps with cheeseburgers and fried chicken. But one thing they've learned, Jackie is very, very smart.
We don't have it on camera, but we think she was actually going into our trap and not setting off the trigger plate. She was reaching over the plate and eating food and taking it out because we'd have a before and after picture and the food was gone and the door was shut.
These are the most recent photos of Jackie, including an infrared camera that's been tracking her at night. At least one animal rescue worker is out every evening trying to earn her trust. It's been a slow process, but they plan to see it through.
Every day we're like, okay, this is the day, this is the day. But we're here for the long haul. We're not going to stop anything different that we're doing now. And hopefully through just, a battle of wills with her that we'll be able to do this.
They're determined at some point they'll bring her home. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
And still ahead, it's a controversial topic every year and one many Alaskans pay close attention to.
The legislature looking at how much the permanent fund dividend should be. All right, we have those proposals for you next.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
So a version of the budget heading to the House includes a statutory $3,900 permanent fund dividend for qualifying Alaskans. Now, it was moved out of committee yesterday.
The House Finance Committee voted on and failed to pass a related amendment to House Bill 53 that would have set the PFD at $1,000 this year. While discussions over the PFD proved contentious, as usual, it was also clear that some lawmakers were conflicted about how the legislature is addressing dividends as a whole, especially while trying to bridge such a large budget gap.
That's what the PFD does, is allows people to have some input in what they actually believe is the best thing to make their life better, more palatable, and maybe even just keep them alive and out of poverty. The other piece to the permanent fund, we're bringing it down, we're bringing it down. That's the only spending cap that we have here.
My district understands that we have been handed a $1.6 billion deficit. We need to do something that's not so regressive. Instead, what we're doing is pulling from the PFD, and there's mixed feelings about it, of course.
Now, in a 6-5 vote, the bill advanced to the Rules Committee for it to be put on the House calendar.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.